G'day, I'm Mike Hayes and welcome to Jazz Guitar Chord Melody, part 52. Well, we're back again today with another action-packed program on triads. And if you enjoyed the last session, I'm sure you're going to get a kick out of today's program. We're going to be practicing triads in contrary motion. We're going to add color tones to the lowest note in the triad. Of course, we'll be playing triads on string grids 2, 3, and 4, and we'll be looking at lots of creative ways of incorporating triads with tone clusters and other devices that we've been discussing up to this point in the series. If this is the first time on our channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you'll be notified just as soon as our latest videos are available. Okay, lots to do again today, so let's get cracking. The first exercises that we'll be working through in this lesson is a further development of the material that we covered in lesson 51. So if you haven't seen that yet, you might like to check out that lesson. I'll put a link in the description below. So having said that, I'm going to assume that you know how to play the C major triads on string grid 1 and how to add colour tones to the triads. Right then, our first project is to play triads from the key of C major on string grid 2. And by string grid 2, I'm referring to the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings. Here we go. When you're ready, let's add the colour tones to those triads. Here we go. Now, if this type of playing is new to you, there's a fair amount of work in what we've covered just so far. So you might like to review all that before moving on to the next string set. Right then, when you're ready, here's the same idea, triads from the key of C, played on string grid 3. That's strings 3, 4 and 5. Here we go. Right then, now it's time to add the colour tones to these triads. Here goes. Right then, when you're ready, let's move over to string grid 4. That's strings 4, 5 and 6. Here we go, playing triads from the key of C on string grid 4. Here goes. Okay, time to add the colour tones to the triads on string grid 4. Here goes. By now you should have a pretty good idea of where the triads from the key of C major are located on the guitar fingerboard. Now it's time to start working on a few creative exercises to get you thinking about how you can use this type of material in your guitar playing and compositions. Once again, these are really simple ideas, however you may not have thought of using these musical raw materials in this way. I'm going to start with the descending C major scale. Just take particular note of how I'm playing this scale. You'll see a diagram on the screen at the moment just illustrating how I'm playing the scale. Let's have a listen. Up to this point, we've been adding colour tones to the triads in the key of C major. What I'm going to do here is use the C major scale as the lowest note in the triad. I'm going to play the first note C as the lowest note in a C major triad, a root position C major triad. Then I'm going to play the B note as a descending bass line. The next note, A, I'm going to play as the lowest note of a C sixth triad. So that would be A as the lowest note, C and then E. The next note in our descending C major scale, the note G, I'm just going to play it as a single note. The next note F, I'm going to play as the lowest note in a C suspended fourth triad. The next note E, I'm going to play as a single note. And then the next note D, I'm going to play as the lowest note in a C add 2 chord, and then finally finishing the scale with the single note C. Then what I'm going to do, and this is where the creative side of things comes in, I'm going to play a chord, and I'm going to play several examples here. In each example, that descending C major scale with the C triads will remain the same. I'm just going to finish each example off with a different chord. The chords I'm using will all be from the key of C major, but I encourage you to experiment and find out what sounds you hear to complete the musical phrase. Anyway, let's have a listen to these examples with the descending C major scale, with the C triad on top of some of the notes, and then ending with various chords from the key of C major. Okay, I think you've got the idea by now. Don't forget to experiment with your own chords at the end of the phrase and see if you can find the sounds that you're hearing. Now, while we're on the subject of creative guitar, let's have a look at a few more examples. I'm going to write a simple 2-bar melody, which will consist of a descending scale, and it'll be in the key of C. I'm going to start on the note D. So my melody will consist of the following notes: D, C, B, A, G, F, E. Now, as you can see, there's nothing earth-shattering about that. What I'm going to do, though, is mix some colours. And these are things we've spoke about before, but we're going to put them together in a different way. What I'm going to do is make up a little rule that I'm going to use a tone cluster on the first note. I'm going to use a harmony of a third on the second note, then back to a tone cluster under the note B, a third under the note A, a tone cluster under the note G, and then a harmony of a third underneath the F. So I'm alternating between tone cluster third, tone cluster third, tone cluster third. And when the listener hears this, quite often they'll hear it as if you're playing a whole series of tone clusters. In fact, though, it creates a lot of variety because it lets your music breathe. Now, when I get to the E note, what I'm going to do is play a little game that in each example I'm going to play an A minor chord under the E note, but I'm going to play a different type of A minor for each example. Let's have a listen. First, let's have a listen to our melody. And now let's have a listen to that 2-bar melody played 4 different ways. Remember that only the chord is changing in the second bar. The first bar remains the same in each example. Well, there you go. As you can hear, it's the same melody line each time, but a different mood is created by the chord. You might like to do some experimenting on your own and try different chords at the end of that little melody. Okay, before we finish up for this session, I'm just going to give you something that'll tickle your brain. We're going to play triads in contrary motion. Now, before we get in and start playing this, I'd just like to explain the concept so you can see what it is that we're actually doing here when we're talking about playing triads in contrary motion. On the screen at the moment, you'll see a series of chords, and if you look closely, all it simply is the triads from the key of C major, only there's 2 octaves there. And what we're doing with this exercise is we're simply starting from one end, the C chord on the left-hand side of the screen, and then we're going up and playing the C on the right-hand side of the screen. Then the next chord that we're playing is D minor on the left-hand side of the screen. Then back over to the right side of the screen and we're playing the B diminished. Back to the left side of the screen and we're playing E minor, over to the right side, and then we're playing A minor, and so on. So we're basically starting from the outside and working our way in. Let's try that. Well, how did you go with that? I said I'd give you something to tickle your brain, but we may have ended up giving you something to give you blisters on the brain. Actually, that's a great exercise because the ability to divide your mind and concentrate on many things is very important with guitar. Don't forget, if you've got any questions or comments, to leave them in the comments section below this video. And I do hope you've got something out of today's session that will help you with your guitar playing and composition work. Until next time, bye for now.